Hello, friends. Today, our story is not about magical beasts or sleeping curses. It is about something much more ordinary and perhaps much more powerful. It is the story of a king, his 3 daughters, and a simple grain of salt. Once upon a time, in a rich and happy land, there lived a very powerful king. The king had everything a man could want: a grand castle, mountains of gold, and fields as green as emeralds. But his greatest treasures were his 3 daughters, whom he loved dearly. One day the king, who was growing older, sat on his throne and called his daughters before him. He felt a great need to hear how much they loved him. First he looked to his eldest daughter, Seraphina. Seraphina was tall and proud with hair as black as a raven's wing. "Seraphina, tell me, how much do you love me?" "Oh, father, I love you more than all the gold in your treasury." "Wonderful," the king said, "a love as precious as gold." Next, he looked to his second daughter, Gwendolyn. She was graceful with eyes like a forest in summer. "And you, Gwendolyn, how much do you love me, my king and father?" "I love you more than the sun in the sky," she replied. Her love was like the sun, radiant and powerful. "Beautiful," said the king, "a love as bright and warm as the sun." And finally, the king turned to his youngest daughter, Princess Amelia, for she was his secret favorite. She was a quiet girl with simple brown hair and eyes that were clear, honest, and kind. "How much do you love me?" he asked. Princess Amelia looked at her father, not with a dazzling smile, but with a simple, true, and loving one. She thought for a moment, wanting to give the most honest answer she could. "Father, I love you as much as fresh meat loves salt." The king's smile vanished. The court grew silent. What did you say?" "I love you as much as fresh meat loves salt," Amelia said again, not understanding his anger. "It is plain and simple, but it is necessary. Life would have no flavor without it." Her sisters, Seraphina and Gwendolyn, covered their mouths to hide their cruel, mocking smiles. "Salt? You compare your love for me to salt, a common rock, a cheap and worthless seasoning. Your sisters offer me gold and the sun, and you offer me salt." But father, you don't understand. Salt is essential. It gives life. It is everything." "I understand enough. If your love is as worthless as salt, then you are worthless to me. And if salt is so plain and unimportant, then we shall prove it. We will live without it. You are no longer welcome here." In his terrible fury, the king did 2 things. First, he banished Princess Amelia from the kingdom. Heartbroken and weeping, Princess Amelia was cast out with only the simple dress she was wearing. Second, the king made a terrible proclamation. He ordered all salt in the kingdom to be destroyed. His guards emptied the royal storehouses and the town markets. All the salt was gathered in the square and dumped into the river, where it dissolved and was washed away. "We shall see how we do without this precious salt," the king muttered, his heart hard as stone. For the first few days, nothing seemed to change. The sun still shone and the people still worked. The king sat on his throne feeling very proud and justified. Then the royal baker tried to make the king's morning bread. He mixed the flour, the water, and the yeast. But without the salt, the yeast did not work properly. The bread did not rise. It came out of the oven as a flat, heavy, pale, and tasteless brick. The king ate it and his brow furrowed. It was wrong. Then the royal chef prepared the king's banquet. He roasted the finest meats and simmered the richest stews, but without salt, the meat was bland and tough. The stew was flat and watery. The vegetables tasted like paper. The king ate, but he felt no joy. The food was like eating nothing. More spice, more herbs, more sugar. The chefs tried everything, but nothing worked. Without the simple, humble salt to bring out the flavor, everything tasted wrong. Soon the trouble spread. The cattle in the fields, who needed salt to be healthy, grew weak and sick. The milk they gave was thin. The cheese would not cure. The kingdom's great herds began to dwindle. The people, too, began to change. With no flavor in their food, they ate without joy. They became tired and listless and weak. The kingdom, once so full of life and color, began to feel gray. The laughter in the town square faded. The songs of the workers stopped. The land itself seemed to be as bland and joyless as the food. The king sat in his grand hall, eating his tasteless, beautiful meals, and he grew weak and sad. His kingdom was failing, and he did not know why. He had his gold and he had the sun, but he had no joy. He had forgotten all about his daughter's words. And what of Princess Amelia? Banished and alone, she had wandered into the deep woods. But a kind old woman, who lived in a tiny simple cottage, found her. She only saw a sad girl who needed help. "There, child, don't you worry now. Everything is going to be all right. Come inside, dear, you're safe now." The old woman took her in, and in the simple, humble cottage, Amelia's new life began. "That's it, dear. Nice and slow, right at the base of the stem," she said. She taught her how to tend a garden, showing her how to care for the herbs and vegetables. She also taught her how to chop wood, a task that made the young princess strong. And most of all, she taught her how to cook over a warm, simple fire. Amelia learned to make simple stews and bread. And the old woman taught her the most important secret, a single tiny pinch of salt. Amelia learned how that one simple pinch could make a plain potato taste wonderful and a simple soup taste rich. And so the years passed, and Amelia grew from a sad girl into a strong, wise young woman. One day, as she was baking bread, a traveling merchant stopped at the humble cottage. He spoke of the sad kingdom, telling of the strange, joyless land where all the food was like ash, despite the endless bounty laid before the people. He spoke of a sick, weak king who sat alone in his castle, starving in the middle of a feast. Amelia's heart ached. She knew what was wrong, and she knew, despite his cruelty, that she still loved her father. She knew she had to help. She disguised herself, putting on the simple, plain clothes of a traveling cook. She tied her brown hair up under a cap, hiding her royal features, and went to the castle carrying a single small cloth bag heavy with something white and precious. At the castle, a grand sad banquet was being held. The king had offered a reward for any cook who could make him taste something again. The long tables were piled high with tasteless food, and the king sat at the head, pale and thin, staring at his plate with dead eyes. The disguised Amelia entered the kitchen. "I will cook for the king," she said. The royal chefs, tired and defeated, shrugged. "Try then," they said. Amelia did not make a grand roast. She made a simple, beautiful stew full of fresh vegetables from the woods. She cooked it with skill and with love, pouring all her care into the simple, beautiful meal. But as the stew was finished, she left out one very important thing. She did not add a single grain of salt. The stew was beautiful but incomplete. She poured the stew into a golden bowl and brought it to the king herself. The king looked at it. It was beautiful, and the smell was wonderful. He eagerly lifted a spoonful to his lips. He tasted it. Instantly, his hopeful face twisted in disgust. It was nothing. It was hot water and paper. It was the same bland, awful, joyless taste. He threw the spoon down, and a single tear of despair ran down his pale, weak cheek. It is all worthless. Everything is worthless. At that moment, the disguised cook, Amelia, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, perhaps the stew is not worthless. Perhaps it is just incomplete." The king looked up at her, confused by her words. She reached into the small cloth bag at her belt, her movements calm and steady. She took out a tiny wooden shaker filled with the precious white grains, and from it she sprinkled a tiny white dusting onto the king's stew. "What? Is that salt?" he exclaimed. "Your Majesty, please try again." Confused, the king picked up his spoon. He stirred the stew. He slowly, hesitantly lifted the spoon to his lips. He tasted it. It was wonderful. It was the most delicious food he had ever tasted. The flavors exploded in his mouth. The carrots were sweet, the meat was rich, the broth was hearty, it was alive. The king began to weep, not with sadness, but with a joy he had not felt in years. He ate another spoonful and another, and as he ate, his strength seemed to return. This little thing, salt, this was magic. It was more wonderful than the sun. It was everything. Finally, he remembered. He remembered his daughter's words. And at last he remembered as much as fresh meat loves salt. He looked at the cook, his eyes full of wonder. Amelia, Princess Amelia, her own eyes full of tears, reached up to her disguise and pulled the cap from her head, her hands trembling. Her Simple brown hair fell to her shoulders. "Yes, father," she said, "Amelia." The king cried out. He stumbled from his throne, his legs weak with shock and emotion. He fell to his knees before her. The great, proud king was now humbled and broken. "My child, my daughter, can you ever forgive me? You told me the truth, and in my pride I threw you away. I threw away the most precious thing, your love and the salt." Amelia knelt and hugged her father, forgiving him completely. "I forgive you," she said. "Bring salt back to the kingdom. Bring it back." And as the salt was returned to the land, a wonderful miracle happened. The golden wave of life returned, spreading out from the castle to the farthest fields. The baker's bread rose high, and soon the smell of fresh, crusty loaves filled the air. The cattle in the fields licked the fresh salt and grew strong and healthy again. The grass became a lush, vibrant green, and the entire kingdom was reborn. The people, as they tasted true flavor again, finally began to laugh. "This is the best bread I've ever tasted." It truly is a miracle. Eat up, children. The color and joy flooded back into the land just as fast as it had left. The king's two eldest daughters, Seraphina and Gwendolyn, were ashamed, their flowery, empty words forgotten. But Amelia, in her kindness, forgave them too. And so the king ruled for many more years with his youngest and wisest daughter by his side. They were happy, and they never forgot that the simplest things, like a kind heart and a true word, are the most precious treasures of all. Did you love this magical tale? Please like, share, and subscribe, friends. Do like and subscribe to our channel.